Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard.
Dalton Phillips.
And looking at a fun week of games here, of course, these were really good. It was a really action-packed weekend in general. We had Thursday, Friday, and Saturday games that we covered this week, and all those games ended up being pretty fun games to watch. Of course, that Thursday game, bit of a blowout, but we'll talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit later on. And there was also matchups that we didn't cover that we need to cover, including this one, Nebraska, Ohio State. This is a big game in the national conversation because Ohio State was a team that's been ranked in the top five all year, and they struggle with a Nebraska team that hasn't looked that good as of late. You can kind of look at the stats here and see why. Will Howard, when he only completes 13 passes in a game, and their rushing attack is not there, it's almost impossible to win a game if you can't run the ball at all. I mean, they have 64 total rushing yards compared to Nebraska having 121, which is doubling them up, and they didn't even run the ball super well, only averaging 3.7 yards per carry. And Dylan Raiola, he made that one mistake, and you could argue that may have been the game, and he threw it at the very end on the final attempt to go down and win the game, threw it on the last drive that they had. So they didn't really even give him a shot. But again, they didn't have a lot of time, so he was just trying to make plays. So I really don't even blame him for that. It's not, that big of a crucial mistake. Looking at the rushing for them, of course, Dowdle had a good game, 14 for 60. They got Emmett Johnson going, but as you can see, Ramir Johnson isn't on here. No carries in this game. So of course it's kind of depleted that system of running backs that they've had, where they've had Dowdle and then Johnson and Johnson, of course, which Dalton always loves to talk about. Only three catches for 70 yards for Jeremiah Smith, but I mean, he's amazing when he gets the ball. Honestly would have liked to have seen him get the ball more. One of those catches was a 60-yard touchdown. Other than that, he had two receptions for 5 yards apiece. That's not enough. I mean, when you're struggling to score points, you've only got a total of 21 in the game, and one of those touchdowns you scored come with 4 minutes left to take the lead. This Nebraska team was winning this game 17-14 with 4 minutes left.
Yeah, it scares me that they couldn't get their rushing attack because they have, like I've said in the past, they might have the best rushing room in college football because those they're both guaranteed NFL guys pretty
Yeah.
much, and I mean they're both studs. But like, look, that's terrible numbers. Like, and if you have that, they have so many athletes too. They're like a team like Oregon. They get five-star recruits everywhere. You think a team like this is just going to blow this team out? I was thinking it was going to be a blowout. I'm not going to lie
Yeah,
because
me too.
Nebraska hasn't looked good and they still didn't look good. Like they struggled because I mean Ryle was a freshman, obviously, but like I mean that they're just Ohio State should not have struggled in the game as much as they did, in my opinion, and that's just like scary, especially against the Indiana team. That Indiana team's tough, and
Yeah.
that's coming down the road, and that's a scary game for them.
Yeah, of course, we've discussed Indiana a lot in the past, and Indiana just played a game without their starting quarterback in Curtis Rourke, who had a surgery on his thumb. He'll be back, but they played without him and still won, and still beat a good team the week of without their guy, without their Heisman contending quarterback. So this is a scary Indiana team, and you're right. If Ohio State plays like this when they play them, they will get beat. Next game here, Syracuse on the road against Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh looked absolutely dominant and did nothing on offense all day. This game was decided by Kyle McCord throwing five interceptions. He throws three pick sixes, all in the first half. He throws five total interceptions. He makes mistakes left and right. He does not look like a good quarterback in this game, although he threw for 300 yards. So, I mean, one of the weirdest games I've watched this year. Pittsburgh absolutely dominated the first half. This was the Pittsburgh team that deserves to be a top 15 team in the country and has been undefeated all year. And even in the second half, they kind of play conservative play calling when you're up by as many points as they were. They don't have to worry about scoring, each and every drive. So they did slow it down a little bit and ended up getting this game, I guess a touch closer at 41-13. But yeah, this was just pure domination. You look at the rushing attack. Syracuse didn't even have a chance to get it going because this game was out of hand within the first 15 minutes of the game. The first quarter of the game's already out of hand. LaQuinn Allen goes 15 for 32, though. Anyways, that's awful. Averaging 2.1 yards per carry, you're toast. Your offense is going nowhere. And then on the other side for Pittsburgh, they really didn't get Desmond Reed going that much. They didn't have to. They didn't have to. They really didn't do much at all. They had Nate Yarnell playing in this game, a guy that hasn't touched the field much this year. This was just domination. This is the kind of game you want to see out of Pittsburgh to prove who they are. And really, to me, they've been disrespected by the rankings. The AP poll has them sitting at 18. They jump 1 point in your rankings after they beat a team that you just had 27th in votes, just outside the top 25, and they whoop them. It's not close. So to me, it's very disrespectful to have a undefeated Pittsburgh team that hasn't had a game where they've really struggled that much this year down that low in the polls. To me, this is a top 15 team in the country. I would like to see them get a little bit of respect and be up there. Don't have anything you want to add?
Yeah, this game was a struggle. Like Kyle McCord struggled in this game, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Pitt's defensive line was absolutely getting in there all the time, and that's what's causing those 5 interceptions. I mean, a good defensive line helps the entire defense out, and I mean, they were making plays. I watched the one interception. The guy was laying on the ground. It was just like the ball was just falling to the defenders. It's what happened. He
Yeah.
just literally was laying down and it fell in his hands, and I'm like, that tells you that's just not your day. Because I was watching the coach looks at Kyle McCord and he goes, it's just he pretty much just says it's not your day. You're all right. Just
Yeah.
work through it. And they kept throwing the ball because I mean that's what you want to do because in that situation I mean you want him to not go into the next game throwing more interceptions because I mean he does this the next game you don't win you cannot win like it's not possible.
Yeah, I hope he does this coming into the next game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh obviously. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he
Yeah.
throws 17 interceptions in the next
Hey, I
game.
mean those DBs at Tech they ain't no joke either. So I mean
Yeah, I
that's
hope he
scary
breaks
for
a
him.
couple records with his
Yeah.
interceptions in the next game.
Yeah. Like
But
5 pick sixes.
yeah, let's turn all of those picks into pick sixes in
Yep.
our next game. But yeah, this is just I can't imagine being a Syracuse fan, being excited for the game and then watching that. I would have turned the TV off so fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, Syracuse, bad loss. I, of course, missed this one. Dalton got this one right. But yeah, this is just a weird game. And Pittsburgh does look really dominant in the conference. Next game here, this was the non-power four school matchup that we were all looking forward to. This is two of the best teams. This is still a UNLV team that can easily compete for that playoff spot because they showed how good they are in this game. They shut down Genty, and it wasn't like they shut him down. He still had 130 rushing yards, but this is a guy that goes for 20 carries, 200 yards on most teams, and they forced him into 33 carries in this game. They made him work. There was times in this game where he went down. He was struggling. They were all over him, and this is by far the best anybody's played against him. This is not debatable that they've had the best rush defense against him. He ran for 190 yards against Oregon, the number one team in the country,
Yeah.
and he did that against them. So UNLV had the strategy to try to beat them. It's just they didn't expect Maddox Madsen. I mean, this guy played great football. He goes on a big 50-yard scramble, as you can tell by his 49-yard long. Only 3 carries total, but one of those was that play. His other play is he runs a guy over at the goal line and scores a touchdown. And then he gets up and he does the big justice. He's out there bringing the boom on the football field. How can you not love this football team, dude? How can you not love this team? This to me is like, let's say Tech, things don't happen, we don't make it. There's no way in the world I'm pulling for anybody but Boise. This football team is so fun. Like
Not even the Volunteers.
they no, they have a team that is full of guys that are misfits, quote unquote, guys that didn't succeed at places. Heck, even Malachi Nelson, a guy that's not playing for them, was a misfit who didn't make it at USSC after being a 5-star. They have a former 3-star, almost 2-star quarterback in Madsen leading the charge to be a potential playoff team. They have Ashton Genty, who's 5'9", running around making plays like crazy. This is just fun, man. It's just a fun football team. I pull for them every time, and I really like the story with UNLV as well. I mean, Haj Malik Williams, 12 for 21, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns, does have the pick. He also plays pretty good in this game. He also runs insanely well. 19 carries, 105 yards, and had a 71-yard rush on a option play where he just tucked it and said, I'm going, and went all the way down the field. I mean, these two teams are awesome. This is just fun football. It's really cool to watch these teams succeed, especially because all you ever see is the power schools competing for playoff spots, and so I'm just really hoping that one of these two teams can make a really big impact in the playoffs this year, and we're going to get to see somebody. So why not let it be one of these two teams? Dalton, if you have anything you want to add, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I would like them to see give Ricky White the ball some more because he is an insane athlete, and I'm not gonna lie, that's your best athlete besides your quarterback there. Because I mean, look at your quarterback, look what he's doing. But Ricky White he makes plays everywhere, and I mean, give him the ball a little bit more. Even though he's got 5 receptions there, I mean, he is there. Like you have Genty on the other side, Ricky White's that guy on the other side. He's that guy.
Yeah, he's their NFL caliber
Yeah,
guy. He's the guy that's
yeah,
definitely going to the league. And he did make plays, of course, but you're not wrong. If they could get him the ball more, maybe you could see a little bit more from him in
yep,
general. He's just a heck of a playmaker, and you're right. Getting the ball, let him make plays. And I think next time they play, which I do think this will be the matchup to me in the conference
yep,
championship game. Now, things have to shake out right now because they do have that loss, but you got Colorado State in that conference as well. And then you got another undefeated team going in that conference that they need to lose. So we'll see if these two teams match up again. But if they do, it'll be another game that I'm definitely watching. I'll sit down and I'll,
yep.
I'll watch that game because it was really fun to watch these two teams play. Next game here, this was disappointing. Notre Dame is very good. They're completely different football team from that game they played earlier in the year. where they looked awful against NIU. It was just an upset that I think woke them up. It actually probably helped them this season, to be honest. It was one of those games that they needed to get the ship right, and now they have. I mean, this is dominance against a Navy team that is good. Don't let this score tell you any otherwise. I mean, Navy has come into this game dominating everybody else they've played. They've been scoring 40 points a game on teams. So it's not like they're unfairly ranked. They were ranked because of how dominant they had been, and Notre Dame just shut them down. The big difference in this game, I was checking on it while I was at the Tech game, and I was thinking, man, how is this so bad? If you look at these stats, they don't look that bad. Horvath, 130 yards. Hendenreich has 50. Texas runs okay. Horvath throws for almost 100. Here's the difference. 7 fumbles, and you lost 5 of them.
Yep. You can't do that being an all rush team. That's something you can't do.
You can't do that being
no.
any football team.
Well, I'm just saying, especially look at them. Like, look at their team. That's what they do. They run the ball, and you can't do that.
I don't even know how this happens. How
No.
do you fumble 7 times? I mean, to me, you can't have possibly been preaching ball security.
No.
And I don't know how. I mean, these guys definitely haven't done this before, but Horvath loses 2, Texa loses 1, Bryant loses 1, Hendenreich loses 1. That is your big-time fullback, your quarterback who's been a stud all year, had potential to be a Heisman guy, 2 fumbles, and Hendenreich, who's your lead back with a fumble. So it's not like they were handing it to receivers and those guys were fumbling. These were their guys making mistakes. And on the other side, as you can tell, Notre Dame makes no mistakes in this game. They look really good. And Leonard, he didn't have to do much. I mean, he threw for 178 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he could have just handed the ball off every play of the game because Jeremiah Love had 12 carries for 102 yards, and his backup had 10 for 52. This is a very dominant Notre Dame team. They're a 1,000% a playoff team at this point unless they blow a game. Now, they still have Army on the schedule. To me, I thought Army was the better of the 2 service academies anyways, so we'll see if that's more of a matchup, a challenge. But again, Army learned from this game. You can't turn the ball over against this Notre Dame team. They're a very sound football team. They're not going to make a lot of mistakes. So if you give them possessions, they're going to capitalize on them. And they sure did. Navy, their season's not over. It's not over because they still play Army. They can still play in the conference championship game. This doesn't hurt them in the conference. They're undefeated in conference play. So this team could still find themselves in the playoffs, and maybe they can right things. Maybe this was the thing that fixed them. Maybe they'll preach more ball security, and this will be a better football team. But it was very bad to watch them play and get blown out like this because I was pulling for them in this game. Next game here, Missouri, they should be put on fraud check. I think they've been on fraud check, and honestly, I don't know why they're ranked still. They're still ranked. I have no idea.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
This Missouri team is ranked 25th right now. It is completely ignorant. It is SEC bias at its best. Missouri, to me, doesn't make much sense. Where have we had the SEC bias with Missouri? We've had it with Bama in the past, and Georgia. I mean, imagine if Georgia was sitting at 3 losses. They would probably still see them ranked, but it's Georgia. We just don't expect them to lose games.
Yeah.
It's the same with Bama, but Missouri, that's the team you're sitting here saying, well, they got to be ranked still. They're Missouri. I mean, this was ugly. This was bad football. Really, really bad football. And this Bama team looks the best they've looked all year because Missouri can't figure out any offense at all. Brady Cook, he played his heart out, man. He went out there and couldn't even move his leg. He tried, but again, we talked about it. They had no chance in the world if he didn't play. Pine comes in there and throws 3 picks in his 12 passes, so he probably would have rivaled Powell McCord down there in Syracuse if he'd have thrown a couple more. This was ugly. This was really, really, really bad football. Missouri, without their lead back, without their quarterback, had no chance. Bama looks really, really good. Milroe goes for 215 in the air. Haynes runs well. Heck, they got guys on here that I haven't said this year, and Richard Young and Daniel Hill. I don't know who those guys are, to be honest with you, and they're getting carries in this game. So,
if you've seen that one run by Justice Haynes, it was insane.
Oh, yeah.
He just that describes the whole entire ball game for me, especially. Like you see that happen, you're like, yeah, we're done. I mean, Missouri, they just can't compete with. I don't understand how you can even think about ranking them because they can't compete with anybody high caliber. I mean, they've shown it, and I mean. Like, it's ridiculous that they even have them ranked. I'm going to be honest. Like, that's even me. I have SEC biased. But, like, they shouldn't be. Like, there's no reason at all they should be. Like, no. They haven't shown anything.
They barely beat Boston College, who Tech just beat by 3 touchdowns. And it could have been even worse if we don't make some stupid decisions and mistakes. They barely beat that team. They won by 6.
Yeah.
This Missouri team is not good. That's their best win they have all year is a 4-3 Boston College team. And they've played 2 top-tier SEC schools and got absolutely mollywopped by both of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is ridiculous. There's a lot of teams that deserve to be ranked. I would have had them ranked last week, and they were a
No.
one-loss team at that point. But I guess you kept them in there because of the show of heart of Brady Cook
Yep.
bringing them back in that game. But yeah, this is bad. And Bama, we'll see what they can do the rest of the year if they can continue this kind of
Yeah.
production against teams. I mean, they can fight themselves back into a playoff spot for sure. And Missouri, yeah, the season should be over at this point.
Yep.
The country's still respecting them at this point, but yeah, I don't expect much more from Missouri football. Next game here, Illinois on the road against Oregon. This is Oregon that we expected to see. This is the number one team in the country. This is a team that looked very dominant on both sides of the ball, and a team that I don't know if there's a team in the country right now that has looked better than them since they played that Ohio State game and got that big win. They've kind of woke up and become that number one team. They're accepting that number one team role and they're running with it. 38 points on offense against an Illinois team that is good defensively. They didn't have an answer. Gabriel goes for 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he also gets contributions from his running back. Jordan James has a great game with 15 carries for 83 yards. And again, you look at the other side. Altmaier finally has that game where he just didn't look ready to compete against Oregon, which he has looked good against other big time teams this year. So I don't think that that's the guy he is. I just think he wasn't ready for this specific game. He goes 161 with 2 interceptions, and they don't have a crazy good run game going. Because Lawfrey played okay with 69 yards and 5.8 yards per carry, but it's just not enough when you don't have anything else going offensively. If you look at Illinois, I think one of the ways they could have got themselves back in this, or I guess hung around in this game, would have been going to Pat Bryant more. Only 3 catches for 26 yards. He's your superstar guy. You kind of have to rival Tez Johnson on the other side for Oregon and kind of match him. And they didn't do that in this game. Although they had a good showing from Zachariah Franklin, they just didn't have enough. This offense is not even close to as good as Oregon's. And Oregon's offense is the best in the country, in my opinion.
Yep.
They've looked like that so far. And when they have everything rolling, I don't know how you stop them. I mean, they can pass the ball really well, and they have a top back that has over 800 yards in the year. It's really hard to stop this team. Don't you think? I want to share.
Yeah, I scrolled down real quick. I'm gonna just look at something. Look at all those guys that are getting receptions.
Oh yeah,
That's why
yeah,
Oregon. That's why Oregon wins ball games. They have so many athletes on the board. Like it is like that's just not heard of. Like
yeah,
you have guys that's sixth, seventh in the depth chart getting 3 catches in a game.
yeah.
Like to be able to do that is great because think about you're always having guys come in fresh and like that's you can't beat that. I think that's the reason they could beat teams like Ohio State that have like crazy good athletes. I mean, this Oregon team has the best athletes in the country, and I mean they've shown it.
Yeah, they have by far the best wideouts.
Yep.
Them and then of course you have teams like Ohio State that does have depth at wideout, but it's just not as good as what Oregon has. I mean, Tez Johnson, you have Evan Stewart only had 1 catch in this game. Trayshawn
Yep.
Holden only had two catches in this game. And then you look for their tight end, their big guy, their stud. He's not even on the list.
Yep.
So they didn't even use the guy, and,
Yeah.
and they had this good of a game. And like you said, they spread the ball around a ton. I mean, there is not very many teams you're seeing 2 catches from a multitude of guys. And then,
Yep.
of
Yep.
course, a little bit of a shot here to Patrick Herbert. Of course, if you know Justin Herbert's brother, this guy's awesome too. He's going to be good. He's a bigger dude, but of course, he's not as good as their starting tight end and Terrence Ferguson. But this is a fun football team. I really like Oregon's jerseys every week. So how can
Oh,
you?
they're beautiful. Yeah.
And of course, the Ducks is just a unique mascot. But I've always liked Oregon. I've always had a sense to liking the Oregon teams, and I'd like to see them continue success for this season. Next game here, Texas at Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt was this close, this close. They just couldn't get it done. They didn't have enough in the tank against this Texas team. To me, again, Texas is a top 5 team in the country, and when they're rolling, they're really hard to stop. And Vanderbilt hung in there. They had a lot of they fought back a lot. They would get down, and then it'd be like, it might be over. And then no, Vanderbilt charges back, makes a play, gets back in it. And the pick that they had off Ewers there towards the end that got them back in the game was a big momentum swing, and it really looked like they might have a chance. They could get back in this. But Pavia does make the 2 crucial mistakes this week with his 2 interceptions, and you just can't do that when you're playing a better team. Overall, they are just a much better team. You make those mistakes, and it's over. They got the run game going decently well, only 114 yards, but they didn't have bad averages. This is kind of the run game you get every week out of Vanderbilt. They don't bust off a bunch of big runs. They usually just chew clock and run it, very methodically down the field, which they did in this game. And then on the other side, you rivaled it with Texas. Quintravion Wisner, Jadon Blue both had good games, and this is very important for Texas because they have to have that combination of passing and rushing to be a top-tier football team. All the teams that are really good right now can do both, and they started showing that a little bit more with Quintravion Wisner. And then receiving wise, when you get DeAndre Moore being your lead receiver with 2 touchdowns, it's not, the guys that we've been talking about. Ryan Wingo, Matthew Golden. Isaiah Bond doesn't have a reception in this game.
Nope.
And you didn't have to go to those guys to beat him. You had DeAndre Moore, you had Gunnar Helm, who has been one of the best tight ends in the country. And it was very key that they were able to use those guys in this game. And even though Bond was shut down by Vanderbilt, that was all they needed. Texas had their other guys, and it was just enough to get it done. Texas wins 27-24. Don't you have anything you want to share?
No, I said it's going to be a close game. I like this Vanderbilt team, and this is a team that I think 100% should be over that Missouri team
Yeah.
because this
Totally.
team has shown that they can actually fight with these big teams. So look who they played against. I mean, this team impresses me. I'm not going to lie. I don't say that a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
there's very few. Like, I mean, to be able to fight with this Texas team, that I mean, their losses to Georgia, and I mean, I'm as a Tennessee fan. The rest of the season, I'm feeling fine, and then that's that Vanderbilt game. I'm like, that's scary. I'm like that. Obviously, the Georgia game. You think about that one too.
Yeah.
But this is. I'm not gonna lie. This game scares me a little bit more than that Georgia game because like they just have that like factor just to be able to control the clock, and I just don't. I don't know. They just know how to win ball games.
Like me and you have discussed in the past, the implications for that Georgia Tennessee game are nowhere near as high as the implications for Vanderbilt Tennessee.
No.
If they don't beat Georgia, okay, you're not really expected to
No.
beat them. They're a top tier
Yeah.
team. If you hang in there with Georgia, you're not going to drop that much in the rankings, 2, 3 spots. You lose to Vanderbilt, and even though Vanderbilt is still a good football team, they're now six
You're
and
done.
three. They're unranked. It's tough. Yeah, you can't lose that game. If you're Tennessee, you cannot lose Georgia and Vanderbilt the rest of the way, or you will miss the playoffs. And so
Yep.
you're right. That is the game that looms is very scary. It is a very scary thing to do to have to go into Vanderbilt and play them in a rivalry week. Where how long has it been since Vanderbilt has beat Tennessee? I don't.
They beat us. I think 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't quote me on that, but because I was in Knoxville playing football, and this is how crazy Neyland is. This is when Tennessee sucked, by the way. We're sitting here. I'm playing this football tournament, a youth football tournament. It's probably 2 miles from the stadium, and you can hear Rocky Top playing it from that place. And it was the Vanderbilt game, and we ended
yeah.
up losing. And I was like, we won. We ended up losing that night too. So I mean, it kind of was like a
Bad number.
loss. But
Yeah, it was a
yeah,
bad number. But yeah, we'll see what happens the rest of the year. I still like Vandy, and you're 1,000% right. Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State. That was a rough loss.
which that one's that. I mean, you're gonna lose a game like that.
Yeah,
That just
it's the
happens. I mean,
it's the outlier, of course, on the schedule.
yeah,
This team would be ranked, no doubt, if they'd have won that game. They'd be
yeah,
6-2 right now, and they would have wins over Alabama. That's the game to me that I compare, and I
yeah,
say Missouri played Alabama, Vanderbilt played Alabama.
yeah,
Vanderbilt won. Missouri got beat 34-0. So
yeah.
why are they ranked? I don't know. To me, it's
Yeah,
insane. And yeah,
yeah.
I 100% agree with you. Vanderbilt is by far a better football team than Missouri. Next game here, LSU on the road to A&M. And this A&M football team is legit. They looked amazing on defense. This is one of the best showings we've seen from them all year. One of the best showings we've seen from a football team in general this year because this LSU team was rolling coming into this game. The big difference, I've said it all year. I have no idea why Connor Wegman was the starting quarterback over Marcel Reed. To me, Marcel Reed had made this football team look better when he was playing, and Wegman was out due to injury. But he's back now. He plays this game. He goes 6 for 18 with 64 passing yards. They're losing 17-7. They make the sub. They put Marcel Reed in. He takes them straight down the field without throwing a pass, and they score a touchdown. It is now 17-14. LSU's like, whoa, what was that? We didn't expect that. That came out of nowhere. We didn't game plan for Marcel Reed. So we got to figure this out. So they come out on offense. They throw a pick. Nussmeier throws a pick. He had thrown 3 picks in this game, although he threw for 400 yards and actually had a pretty good game other than the picks. He does have the 3 picks. He throws that, and the LSU defense is right back on the field. They got to try to stop this kid. Reed comes out. He throws his one of his 2 passes, and then instead of throwing any other passes, it's run, 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 and they can't stop it. All the way down the field, he's pulling it out, running. He's looking like prime Lamar Jackson to me. That's what it reminded me of. He's a very scrawny guy. He's a very skinny, slim fit guy. So he looks like Lamar. Like he looks like
Yep.
college Lamar. That's exactly what college Lamar looked like. And now he's running all over. I mean, they can't stop him. He's just running everywhere he wants to go, sideline to sideline, up the middle. And then they are now losing. Now LSU, who had a very comfortable lead and hadn't looked like they were struggling at all the whole entire game, is now losing. And A&M is like, whoa, we found something, so let's stick with him. So Marcel Reed comes back out on the next drive after LSU gets stopped. Marcel Reed then uncorks a bomb down the field, and it's like, where did that come from? We haven't seen that from Connor Wegman all year. So why has Connor Wegman been playing? I don't know. I have no idea because Marshall Reed is just looked like a better passer. He threw two passes and threw for 70 yards,
Yeah.
and Wegman did 64 yards and 18 passes. So this team is very good with Marcel Reed. This is a very good A&M team. They are better than they were at the beginning of this football game because they put Marcel Reed in and ended up scoring 31 points. Now, LSU ended up getting a score at the end, but it was 31 unanswered almost compared to prior to him coming in, they scored seven. I don't know what you can say other than that this A&M's team looks deadly with Marcel Reed at quarterback.
Yep.
They have a very good rushing attack. Amari Daniels runs well, Le'Veon Moss runs well, and Marcel Reed has 9 carries for 62 yards and 3 touchdowns in the short time he's in the game. On the other side for LSU, no run game, non-existent. Josh
Yep.
Williams, Caden Durham both stopped without any kind of progress. Durham has 11 carries and only has 15 total yards. He goes nowhere all day.
And you notice he has one rush for he had a 10-yard rush.
Yeah.
That's telling you he is getting tackled in the backfield a lot.
Yeah, a ton.
And
Yeah, I
I
mean
mean,
that
we were
means
talking about this guy too. Like we were talking about him being like good, and like look
yeah.
what this Texas A&M defense did to him. Shut their whole rushing game, and I'm not gonna lie, that's probably a big reason for LSU losing this ball game because I mean, if you can't run the ball when you're up 17-7, you're not gonna win the ball game.
That's the exact point.
Yep.
They couldn't control clock. They couldn't control the
Yep.
game when they had that lead. And even though it was only a 10-point lead, if you can control clock,
Yep.
control the game a little bit, maybe you can slow them down a little bit so they're not getting the ball so fast.
Yep.
Nussmeier having to throw 50 times doesn't help. And I know he's got studs on the outside, and he was just trying to make plays to those guys, but he can't throw the 3 picks.
No.
Realistically, if he does that again this year, that eliminates them from playoff talks. Right now, they're still in it because I think that they still very easily can find a way in the playoffs with a win over Bama or some other big wins throughout the schedule. But they've now got to win out. This game
Yep.
was a very big game in the conference because whoever won this one is sitting very pretty to win the conference,
Yep.
to get in the conference championship game at least. A&M now has Texas left on the schedule at the end of the year in rivalry week,
Big
and they have
rivalry
South
game right there.
Carolina coming up, and that's it. That is the rest of their schedule. They've gotten through the tougher start of the schedule and got to a point where I would say A&M is the favorite to go to this
Yep.
conference championship game for sure. They're the only lock right now. You got Georgia, you have Texas, you have Tennessee. You have a lot of teams fighting for that spot. Heck, even LSU could end up being there again if some things were to shake up and happen in the rest of the conference play. But A&M's sitting pretty. They are not as worried as all these other teams are about trying to get in there because they are undefeated in conference play. In this game, LSU receivers play really well. Aaron Anderson only has 3 catches, but has 126 yards, a touchdown, and Kyron Lacey has 5 for 106. He's been very consistent all year, been a stud of a receiver. And I really do expect this offense to wake back up and be okay after this game, but they were anemic in the second half. After those picks and after those mistakes and after just watching your lead disappear in
Yep.
seconds. Not anything I want to add. This was a crazy game.
This Texas A&M team's good. I mean, because this LSU team is good, and I mean, look at what they did against them. I thought this LSU team was like a surefire SEC championship team because I was just because Nussmeier was making plays. I mean,
Yeah.
he still threw for 400 yards this game and struggled as bad as he did. I mean, and I just want to see the rushing game get better, honestly, because if their rushing game gets better, I mean, who knows? You could have stopped this Texas A&M team, and you never know. I mean, then you're leading the conference, and I mean, that's a surefire. You're pretty much there at that point.
Yeah, no, this
Yeah,
was a very
yeah,
teeter-totter type of game. Whoever won this one was set at the best spot you could be at right now in the SEC. They are at the top spot in the SEC. I don't think anybody would have told you Texas
no,
A&M would be the number one team in the SEC this far into the season and looking like a surefire conference championship team.
yeah,
And honestly, I think they're playoff locks at this point.
yeah,
I mean, let's say they lose to Texas. That doesn't hurt them at all.
no,
And the odds of them making the conference championship game with only that loss to Texas is pretty high because it could likely be them and Texas, or it could even be
yeah,
them and someone else in the conference. But at that point, even if they don't go to a conference championship game, if Texas is their only loss the rest of the year and they're 10-2, they're guaranteed going to make the playoffs. Guaranteed. Because they'll have big wins over
yeah,
LSU and they'll have, only that one loss and then a loss earlier in the year to a Notre Dame team that is very good right now.
yeah,
So that those two losses don't look bad at you at all, and those are two playoff teams right now. So
yeah.
yeah, A&M is set up pretty to definitely win this conference, and I don't think anybody would have picked that. Next game here, Penn State on the road at Wisconsin. This was a weird football game because Penn State loses Drew Aller in this game. Bo Pribula has to finish this game out, and he just did his job. He did all he had to do to get a win. He knew that, hey, I've got better athletes. I've got better, more competitive top tier guys. And if I just get my guys the ball, I don't make mistakes, we will win. As you can see, he completed 11 passes for only 98 yards. So he was just throwing stuff, making it easy on himself. And it was good play calling by them to let him just control the game and get a win. They didn't have a very firm hold on this football game. Actually, going in to the final quarter of the game, they're in a 1 point game. They're in a 1 point game. And it's scary because if you lose this one, man, is that a shot to you after you're ranked third. And a lot of people have really hyped you up. They've been talking good about you. And to me, this was the kind of game Penn State needed. They needed that. Let's see if we can win without Drew Aller making plays. And Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, they both come through in this game. They both run really well. Katron runs great. 11 for 86 and a touchdown. It's the best you could get out of the guy with your quarterback being down. And you really needed that kind of performance from him. On the other side for Wisconsin, they got their back going in the first half. He was completely shut down in the second. They had a lead at halftime of this game. Tolly Walker had played really good football. He scored the touchdown to go into halftime and put Wisconsin up. And actually, Braden Locke really didn't play a bad football game. 217 passing yards, only had the one pick. But again, when you throw 42 times, you only complete 22 of them. It's still not the best game, but they got what they were kind of expecting out of him. They just needed Tolly Walker to be better in this game, and he wasn't. Looking at receiving, again, Penn State does have a deadly weapon in Tyler Warren, which when Bo Pribula got in there, he really understood. Just get my guys the ball. Let's just let them make plays. Let me be smart with the ball. And Penn State comes out here with a win. A pretty stout defense, and they do good things here to continue on this streak of being undefeated in the country right now. Dalton, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean this Penn State team's good, and I mean they showed that they were good. I mean they can run the ball, and with even showed that even with the quarterback situation, somebody getting hurt, they still can win ball games, and that's huge. Especially you got a big game coming up and
Yeah.
a huge game coming up.
For them to even have a chance at winning a championship, Drew Aller has to play. So we'll see how that plays out in the upcoming weeks. Next game here, SMU at Duke. This was a game. That's the word I could use. This was a game that I can't believe the outcome of. This SMU team turns the ball over 6 times to Duke's 0 and walk out of here with a win in overtime. Duke did everything they could to hand them this win. This was a game that neither team wanted to win at all. No, neither one of these teams wanted to win this football game. They did not want to win. You look at that whole fourth quarter, it was disgusting football. It was really, really bad. I mean, if you remember the Alabama-Tennessee first half and how just neither team could get anything going, that was the fourth quarter of this game. There was nothing going. Nothing. Kevin Jennings has multiple interceptions in the fourth. They have a fumble in the fourth, a very big fumble that gives Duke field position to try to kick a game-winning field goal. What does Duke do? They go out and they get the field goal blocked. They had a minute and 19 seconds left, 3 timeouts, and they were on the 27-yard line. Duke chose to run the clock out and kick a field goal. They had that much time left and didn't even try to score. No attempt at all to try to go down and score. To me, their kicker in this game had missed an extra point and a field goal under 50 yards. So you were just going to put all your faith on this guy. Yep, that's the guy I want to go out there and win me the game, is a guy that's missed an extra point today, which are from the 3-yard line. That's who they let go kick this. And it gets blocked. They go to overtime. SMU, they get the ball first. They go down and score in like 3 plays. The easiest drive I've ever seen in my life, which is what I expected to happen to Duke because they threw this away. Well, then Duke just throws. Malik Murphy sets back and just throws a deep ball up. Guy catches it in the end zone, touchdown. So then they're like, let's go for 2. Then they run the worst 2-point conversion play I've ever seen in my entire life. They roll out to the short side of the field, and he has one guy. It's just him and one guy. All of his other receivers go the other way. So then it's him on one guy. He's getting pass rushed, and he overthrows him, and it's game over. I've never seen a football team not want to win. Duke didn't want to win. They just didn't want to win this game. They wanted to lose. I don't know if they bet on themselves to lose this game, but it was disgusting football to watch. I can't imagine what those meetings will be like with his team when you just had a top 25 team on the ropes. And honestly, Duke is still playing for life in the conference. They were going to be 3-1 in conference play and 7-1 in the country. And that's how you play with that much on the line? I don't know. To me, Duke has always looked a little bit fraudulent this year. They've been a 6-1 team that I told you before I didn't have a lot of faith in. That just reassured it for me that Duke is not that great. SMU gets out of here with the sneakiest of sneaky wins, and now they're looking at a schedule where if they can beat Pittsburgh, they're surefire going to go to the conference championship game. This is pretty much their last chance for them to lose a game would be playing this Pittsburgh team who's really hot, coming off a big win. But we'll see what happens. Brashard Smith did get things going in this game, had 26 carries for 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, Now, the other side for Duke, we mentioned how Star Thomas really had to be going in this game, and he didn't have a bad game, but it wasn't a good game. But again, everything you could do to throw this game away, they did, and still almost won. So I'm not sure how confident I am in either one of these teams. Also, shout out Roderick Daniels, 2 catches, 153 yards, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Kevin Jennings had 2 fumbles and 3 interceptions, and he fumbled 2 more times and just ended up getting them both back. But yeah, this was just ridiculous football game to watch, and SMU takes it in overtime. Dalton, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, that was a big game for the ACC. I mean, that's like with your Tech. I mean, if Duke needed to win that game for Tech to, I mean, you want SMU to lose
Yeah.
because you want Tech in there, obviously.
Yeah, we needed them to drop a game,
Yeah.
and I was sitting there watching this, and I said, "All right, they've got it." Shanks a field goal.
No, they don't.
Here we go. No, we're not. No, we're not gonna get it. Then they turn the ball over, and I'm like, "Oh, we got it. We're gonna be good." Nope, they punt, and I'm like, "Okay, well, SMU's gonna have the final drive. They're probably gonna go down and win." He fumbles in positive territory, like, "Oh yes, Duke's got it again." Nope, they don't. So 3 straight times, Duke just absolutely craps their pants on offense, and
Yep.
it's just over. I have no idea what they were doing, but yeah, don't rely on Duke in any situation. That's what I've learned from this game. I hate
Yeah.
Duke, so I will continue to hate Duke. Next game here, this is another big one for Tech. They take the Techmo Bowl at home. They proved they are the real Tech. Referring to Tech, it is us. They get the win here at home, and this wasn't a pretty game. It wasn't. It was ugly football. But the thing is, when you win ugly football, it's just wins. Wins are wins, no matter how you achieve
Wins a
those.
win.
And like we talked about earlier in this video with Tennessee's ugly first half against Alabama. All that mattered in the end of that game is you got that win. That's all
As
that
long as some goalposts were coming down.
exactly. I mean, yeah. As long as the goalposts were coming down. Nobody looks at how did you win. It's did you win, and we did. Got it done here. Again, not the prettiest football game. If you look at Drone's stats on the day, he has 16 for 27, 128, 1 touchdown, and he didn't have to have this crazy passing day because Drones rushes for a touchdown, catches a receiving touchdown, and then he throws a touchdown. First time that somebody at Tech has done this since 1985, and he had a Philly special play that was awesome, very very unique, drawn up play. And Jalen Lane throws the touchdown. But yeah, that was just awesome. Drones did have that game where I mentioned, hey, he hasn't taken over in a game yet this year. He hasn't really taken over. But he had awesome plays in this game, some really unique plays. And I liked a lot of our play calling in moments of this game, but I also think we got too conservative. I mean, yes, the defense was unbelievable. They only scored 6 points against us. We were all over them all day, picked them off twice. They didn't have much of a chance. We absolutely drowned the rushing attack, even with a good rushing quarterback in Pyron. They got nothing going all day. So yes, I understand rely on your defense, let them make plays, don't make mistakes on offense. Because last week we did make mistakes on offense and tried to throw away the Boston College game. So I'm okay with a more conservative attack, but to me, we limited ourselves. We took away a game where we could have ran away with this, and then maybe Bashal Tutin's not in there in the fourth quarter when he goes down with a slight injury. Now, luckily, I saw today that Jalen Lane made a joke. He's a drama queen. You know, he does this kind of stuff. He'll be all right. So they're joking around the complex. There was rumors that he walked off the field, was caught, warming up on the sideline, jumping up and down after the game. So I think he's okay. But again, just precautionary measures. And of course, we have to have him coming forward because he's one of the best backs in the country. And if you don't have one of the best backs in the country, it's going to hurt you in any game, no matter who you're playing, even if it is just Syracuse coming up and not Clemson looking forward. On the other side for Georgia Tech, of course, we talked about the quarterback situation. Aaron Philo actually comes in and plays a little bit better football compared to that of Pyron's because Pyron, he didn't do much. They didn't trust his arm at all, really. They had a lot of design rollouts, and that's pretty much where all of his passing yards come from. Nothing down the field. They put Philo in there, and they have weapons. Eric Singleton and Malik Rutherford, these guys are dogs. I mean, these are two really good receivers. So when Philo come in there, he started unleashing the deep ball. Of course, you can see the 57-yard completion to Singleton. But Philo still made a mistake. He threw a pick, and also Pyron threw a pick. This was just really good defense from Virginia Tech. This is one of our better defensive showings all year, and it was really one of those games where you can look at it and say the defense won us this football game. Don't you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that Mr. Tootin got hurt. I'm not gonna lie, and my cousin told me he said he broke his leg, and I was like, oh my gosh, Maggard's in the stand crying right now, and I was like, so I texted him, and he didn't get the text till after the game, and he goes, oh, now he's all right. And I was like,
Yeah,
man, this because I like Tootin is y'all's team. I'm gonna be
yeah.
honest.
He's
I mean,
obviously he's
he
the
is.
backbone. He's the piece you rely
Yeah,
on.
that's it scared me a little bit because I'm not gonna lie, I like Tech a little bit. I like Tech, and it scared me because I love watching Tootin run the ball. I mean, he's just so good with the ball, and even with playing 3 quarters, you got 80 yards. I mean, he's
Yeah,
one of the best backs in the country.
yeah. I mean, he's now fifth in the country in rushing yards,
Yep.
950 on the year. Again, a guy that has 14 touchdowns. It's a superstar player. And yeah, you're 100% right. Without him, that is the backbone of the offense. That's how you get things going, how you get things rolling as a team. And again, I'd like to see some guys featured more. To me, Gosnell doesn't get the ball enough in Steven Gosnell. But Benji Gosnell had a very unique design, drawn up play for him for a touchdown that was really awesome. And again, just get these two guys the ball. I mean, just let them make play. They catch everything. They literally catch everything. If you throw a ball their way, they're catching it. And then again, I still would like to see Lane get the ball a little bit more. And we did some unique stuff with him. Of course, the Philly special, let him run the ball once. So we were kind of getting him the ball and let him be a gadget playmaker type guy. But again, I like to see the ball spread around a little bit more. And Ollie Jennings, that's another guy that I've mentioned multiple times that if he's healthy, he's really, really good. He doesn't look like he's ready. He doesn't look ready to play in this kind of style of offense. He doesn't look like he's healthy, like he's really acclimated to playing college football right now. I don't know how bad that injury is lingering with him, but he suffered through it 2 years in a row, and so now he's been out of football for a long time, and he don't look like he's really ready. So honestly, if it was me, I wouldn't be starting him at the lead wideout spot. I would bring him in on packages and let him learn packages and get him back in the game in that way, and then maybe you work him into being the starter. But I would have Gosnell out there right now on the wideout position. Or Felton, of course. Felton can obviously do things with his speed and his size on the outside. But yeah, Tech's defense really good. That was the story, and that was only with one sack. We were all over him though, and forced a lot of bad passes, and then of course the four TFLs.
Yep.
And Drones got better protection in this game, but still not great. We had the forced fumble on the very first play of the game because if you had to take a wild guess, who got
Parker Clements.
oh man, you got it. He got balled off the ball, and the ball gets stripped out of his hands on the very first play of the game. So that was obviously like, oh my gosh, we're going to give away the ball on the first drive. Luckily, Jones dives on it, gets back on the ball. But I just don't understand it. But I would go past that point. Viewpoint. But yes, got to win. Big game coming up. Syracuse at the Terror Dome for us. We don't win there. We've won one time in the last 40 years at that stadium. Now, we haven't played there a ton, so that stat is a little bit, a little janky to look at that stat overall. We've only played there twice since 2000, which was the last time we won there. But still, not our favorite stadium to go to.
Yeah, I
So,
want to shout out one guy, Parker Clements. You're featured on the podcast anytime you want to be.
yes, Parker, please join the podcast and
Please join the
explain.
podcast one time.
Explain
NIL deal.
yourself.
Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew.
Explain yourself, Parker. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Again, another fun week of games. I'm glad Tech got the win. Of course, Tennessee was on their off week, but they got a big one coming up. You just got to keep locking it each and every week. Just focus up, win your games. They got a shot at the playoff. We got a shot if we can win our games. We got some big matchups we have to win. And of course, we looked at this slate of college football in general. Very fun week. And just hoping for some, very fun matchups in the upcoming week. Join us again on Thursday. We'll have our pick 'em out for week 10. Dalton, you have anything you want to add?
Go Vols, and we got to win this week.
Yeah, must win. Must win
Yep.
every week. Every week's a must win for the rest of the season. Again, thank you guys so much for joining. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoy. Also, I'd like to mention again, we talked about the college basketball podcast. If you guys have any ideas for how you'd like us to do that, I've talked to Dalton a little bit about it. The hope is that we're going to post at least once a week. I would like to do twice, but it just depends on scheduling, and those will probably be shorter videos. We'll just talk very plain, simple basketball talk 10, 15 minutes, maybe even some shorts we'll try to get rolling out on either TikTok or YouTube or something. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you guys again on Thursday, and peace.
Peace.